What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. So I've got something a little different today. I've got an AlphaWorks gasoline engine that I purchased off of Amazon. And I bought this for a very specific reason. I saw this engine posted on a Facebook group a few weeks ago and looked at the product specifications, and it had something very interesting, something I haven't seen before. So I've been watching it for several weeks, and I found this thing on sale for 122 bucks, so I bought it. Now, what makes this engine special is the specifications say it has a 74.5 millimeter bore and a 48 millimeter stroke, which gives it 209 cc's. Now, I've got a standard non-Hemi Predator here. It's 212 cc's, and it has a 70 millimeter bore. So supposedly, this engine is 4.5 millimeters bigger in the bore size. If it's got the same size block, maybe we can put a big crank in it and get a really big displacement engine, up around 250 cc's. Now, I've got this non-Hemi Predator here for comparison, because this engine, according to the pictures and specifications on Amazon, is a Rato R210S. R210S, what's that mean? Well, this engine, if you look closely here, is an R210, no S. This engine's built by Rato. That's who makes the non-Hemi Predators for Harbor Freight. So this engine is its cousin. We're gonna open this box up, see what's in here, take a look at this engine, tear it apart, measure the bore, measure the stroke, see what it really is. Let's get started. So, got our spark plug wrench. Don't need that. Unbag it. And that's interesting. This is not what I thought it was. 212 cc's. And it's damaged. Awesome. So yeah, it's been smashed in shipment. That's good. Also, this engine's a Hemi, a Ducar Hemi. Checking the model number, it is DHP 212. So this is a Ducar built engine, not a Rato engine. I bet it doesn't have a 74.5 millimeter bore either. Well, we'll get rid of this thing because we're not going to be making any comparisons between these two. So this is a Ducar built engine. The side cover looks a little different here. I did see in the box that it included some bolts. I think this engine uses an 8 millimeter bolt rather than the 5/16 that the Predators use. Get a good look at it here. It's got a charcoal canister on it. That's okay. It's got an SP carburetor, just like the Predators do. Ducar 212. Now that's interesting. So Ducar actually builds the Max Performance 224cc engine for Harbor Freight. They also build the 208 and 212cc engines that Northern Tool sells. So I wonder if this is the same as a Northern Tool engine. Let's tear it apart, see how it looks on the inside. that's not a good sound. So obviously that's broken. We'll go ahead and pull the flywheel shroud off of it. We've got 4 6mm bolts, 8mm heads on them, just like any other GX200 clone engine. What's going on here? Oh, awesome. So this engine has a funky blower housing and it sits behind the carburetor, so you can't take it off without taking the carburetor off. I don't know why they would do that, but okay. So I guess we'll take the carburetor off. So the carburetor looks like any standard Predator carburetor, P19, made by SP. It's got Ducar stamped on it as well. Now we've got the carburetor off of it. Pull the gaskets, heat isolator. Put this in here. Oh. Well, it's hung up. The dogs of the starter are stuck in the starter cup. I've got an extra pull starter, so I'll slap that on and see if it fits. Beat the blower housing back straight. It's kind of smushed down there at the bottom. There we go. This is pretty impressive. The box doesn't look damaged, but yeah, it's definitely smashed. It's an odd shape for the blower housing. It's got this extra piece here, I guess, to duct air around the bottom side of the cylinder. Maybe just to make things difficult. Definitely see some damage on the flywheel fins there, but I think they'll be okay. Get rid of the charcoal canister. Just pull that off. I'm not against charcoal canisters. They don't hurt anything. All they're doing is absorbing the fuel vapors that evaporate inside the fuel tank due to temperature changes. And then they hold them until the engine is started, at which point the engine sucks up the fuel vapors and burns them. So it's not penalizing your performance. You don't have to remove the charcoal canister. It's not hurting anything. It's not costing you any horsepower. Just keeps the engine from being quite as stinky. Got good compression. Pull the fuel tank off of it. See what's underneath. This does not look to be one of those fancy reinforced blocks with the nice ribbing and shrouding up around them. So far it looks to be a pretty bog standard clone engine with a Ducati Hemi head on it. Kind of like that red fuel tank. We'll pull the throttle assembly. Set that here. Got a bolt on top of the intake port. I'm curious. So this is a standard TG 1-cylinder head. Yeah, it's got the same mounting boss on it. Okay. Pull the muffler. Standard 13mm nuts for the muffler. The cylinder head's got a slightly different shape to the ports. So on a standard clone head, they're very square, very flat at the bottom, they're D-shaped. Whereas this hemi-cylinder head, the ports are more rounded. The floor of the port is not flat. The floor of the intake port is not flat. It's actually rounded on this cylinder head. And the floor of the exhaust port is less rounded, but still, you know, it's not a squared off D shape like this one. Block looks pretty standard. Ducati S01. Pull the low oil shutdown off of it. It's interesting on this engine, the low oil shutdown is not threaded through there. I don't know if that just pulls through the hole in the block with nothing to secure it, or what. It's kind of what it looks like. It's just stuck through there. coil. .168F, 170F coils, that's just standard GX200 and 212 stuff. We don't really care about any of that. I want to see what the bore and the stroke of this motor are. Take a look at this flywheel too. Since it's a Dakar, I would suspect it uses a clone taper flywheel. We'll leave the governor arm on, but we'll take this linkage off for now. Who knows if it'll go back on. We might just throw this thing on a go-kart or a mini bike or something and send it to Valhalla. Pull the valve cover off. Standard Hemi valve cover, I believe. I'm not real familiar with these Dakar Hemis. This is the first one I've had, actually. It's got the center retainer, adjusters for the rocker arms. Blast that out of there. Once you have the retainer out, you pull these pins out, rocker arms come off. Stick the pins back in the rocker arms. Go ahead and measure the push rods. Push rods measure 138.58 millimeters. We'll call that 138.6 or 5.456 inches. Let's pull this cylinder head off. I want to measure this bore. I'm curious. I want to see what it is. I bet it's damn sure not 74.5 millimeters. I actually pulled out the book, and the book says 70 by 55, just like every other 212. But I've noticed something about this engine that's a little bit different. Sorry, something else about this engine that's a little bit different. It has me curious. These look like galvanized head bolts. So it has a composite head gasket. Oh. We left some tin on it. Hey, look at that. The head gasket came off in one piece. So the cylinder head has DHP 212 marked on it. Don't know if it's specific to this engine or not. This block looks really short. Really short. In fact, so this is a standard Predator 212 Hemi block. Line up crankshaft to crankshaft. And the deck height of this block is significantly higher. You can see it, it's obvious. Let's check them. Look at that. Wow. That's a huge difference. Now, before I pull this head gasket off, I'm going to check and see if a standard clone head gasket will fit this engine. It will not. That is weird. This engine's getting weirder by the minute. So the two bottom holes line up where the dowel pins are at. The oil hole is about right, but these two upper holes are way different. They're way out of place. There's a lot of overshadow on that. This head bolt is shifted up. This head bolt is shifted out. And that piston does look significantly larger. So this is the piston and the rod that came out of this engine originally. You can see that. Look at that. That motor has a lot bigger bore. So in fact, this engine has a 74.9 millimeter bore size. That is way bigger. Wow. Let's see what the stroke is. So we'll find approximately top dead center. Right there, that looks good. Zero our calipers. Go to bottom dead center, right in there. And the stroke is approximately 47 millimeters. So this is a big bore, short stroke, sort of clone. The head gasket is definitely different. I'm not going to peel that off of there because I'll never get another one. But the bore is definitely big. Unfortunately, the deck is also short. So we're not going to be able to build any big displacement motors from this. Yeah, the deck is a good 15 millimeters shorter than the 212, than the Predator 212, I would say, because this also claims to be a 212. So the cylinder head is different. The cylinder bore is different. And also, this side cover is different. That is not a standard GX200 side cover. Let's pull it off of there and take a closer look. plastic camshaft, and it's got straight cut gears on it. Let's roll this over. What's got your camshaft? Got some oil in the bottom of it. Soak up that oil, but while we're doing that, check that out. So, this engine, the side cover gasket is different. I don't know if this is like a GX 120 side cover or if it's proprietary to this Ducar engine, but the dowel pinholes are in the same location, so I would assume they did that so they can machine it on the same fixtures. But all the other bolt locations are different, and you can see the cam is a lot smaller. In addition to the plastic gear and straight cut teeth, it's a lot smaller. It also doesn't want to come out. There it goes. Teeny weeny little camshaft. "10mm journals on the camshaft. I do believe that's a wee bit smaller than a 212 Predator. This is some kind of weird, I don't know what this thing is. This is a weird engine. Pull the rod and piston out of it. Check that out too. 10mm rod bolts. Eventually they'll come out. There we go. Looks like a light duty standard clone rod. The journal looks small. We'll measure that. Drive this piston out. We'll measure that too. Look at that. Wow, that's a short little rod. Look at that little rod. That thing is tiny. Where's my Predator piston again? So, if I put my rod back together, you can see how much shorter one is than the other. This rod is so much shorter. Look at that piston. Let's slap this thing back together. Look at that, it's a little baby rod. calipers back out. There we go. And the rod journal is 27 millimeters. 27 millimeters. So a standard clone, I believe, is 30 millimeters. A Predator 212, I think, is 30.25, something like that. So that's 27, so it's got a smaller, well, hell, I got one right here. 30.2. .2. The Chinese companies like to add 0.2 to every standard dimension. I don't get it. So this rod is way short. 27 millimeter rod journal. 53.54. Calculate the center to center distance on it here in just a second. 15.9 millimeter wrist pin. 15.97, so 16 millimeters is the wrist pin diameter, effectively, versus the Hemi Predator, which is 18. I don't know what the Rado-built non-Hemi Predator is. I think it's 18 as well. It's definitely got a bigger bore. You can see how much bigger the AlphaWorks piston is compared to the Predator 212. Got a slight dish to it, not much, just a little bit. So we said the rod journal was 27 millimeters, half of that's 13.5. Wrist pin diameter is 16 millimeters, so half of that is 8, so plus 8. Then we're going to add 53.5 plus 53.5. So the center to center distance on this connecting rod is 75 millimeters. That's about 9 millimeters shorter than the standard 212 GX200 clone rod. Those are 84, that one's 75. So this engine is definitely a lot shorter with a big bore and a short stroke. And I would say this would be a great build if you wanted to spin it to the moon, but I don't think so. For one thing, it's got this little dinky rod in it, and a short rod puts a lot of side load on the piston. And this cam, you're not going to get a cam for this motor. Nobody's going to make one. Who knows what, you know, there may be 12 of these things in the whole world. This engine is not common. This does not interchange with anything that I'm aware of. I don't think a GX120 cam, even if anybody made one, maybe they do, but if anybody did, I don't think this would interchange because of the straight cut gears. That's just not a Honda thing to do. And all the gaskets on it are weird. Maybe that's a GX120 gasket, I don't know. I can tell you, that head gasket's definitely not. It's not the same thing as a standard clone, and it's not going to be a GX120 head gasket because GX120s don't have 74.5 or 75 millimeter bores. So this engine is kind of a unicorn. It's proprietary to itself. It's the only one like it. Now, would I buy one of these engines? Like for general purpose stuff, put it on a pressure washer or something? Maybe if it was cheap. There's no reason to select this engine over anything else. Would I buy this as a performance engine? No way. This thing's way different. There's going to be no aftermarket support for it. Like you might put a carburetor on it. That looks like a standard 212 or GX200 style carburetor, but maybe other than the flywheel, I don't think anything else is going to interchange. So there it is, the AlphaWorks 212cc 7 horsepower engine. I bought it so you don't have to. Good night.
Mm-hmm.